Hi guys, my name is Christine and I'm a dating, relationship and personal development coach, and today I'm talking about blocking them is one of the best ways that you can get over them. So this is especially for those kinds of people who have realized that the person that they like doesn't like them back, and it's probably never going to like them back, or it could be an ex that you've come to realize that just isn't going to come back into your life, and you realize that maybe this person really doesn't love me anymore and there's no chance of getting them back. So perhaps you've done the no contacts rule for a while and things haven't progressed. Perhaps the person that you were in love with has now got into a new relationship. So sometimes the best thing to do for your own sanity and for your own peace of mind, so you don't obsess or feel the need basically to sometimes check up on them, to check up on their social media, because sometimes doing that kind of thing can leave you very stuck. Now, I know there are some people out there that, break up with someone or get rejected by someone and they don't obsess about it too much. They just kind of let it go. But there are a lot of people out there that find it very difficult to let go, and they may keep those people on social media, or they don't block them on social media and they still check up on their Instagrams, their Facebook pages, their Snapchat, things like that. So one of the best ways that you can get over them, especially if you're one of these people that are more inclined to do this kind of thing, and I was definitely one of those people that was inclined to do this kind of thing when a girl rejected me or a breakup happened, I would sometimes go back and check on these exes and these past crushes to, just see what they're up to basically. And it prevents you from moving on. So I can completely understand if you're in that same boat, because I've done that kind of behavior in the past myself. It's just something that I used to do. I couldn't help myself. It was kind of like one of those kinds of situations where you just couldn't resist. You just had to see what they were up to because you weren't over it. So blocking them and blocking them on everything can sometimes be a very curative thing for you to do, because if you don't have the temptation to look at their stuff, then that's really going to help you move on, because you haven't got anything basically to feed on, because sometimes it can feel like a bit of a drug. You kind of have this desire to look at their stuff, and you do that and then you feel a little bit better. So it can be like one of these addictive things, especially if you do have a more like of an addictive personality, which I'm not saying that you do, but you might have one if you're one of those kinds of people who are resonating with what I'm saying. So but I think blocking someone who it's just never going to work out with, or they're not going to come back into your life, is really going to help. And the reason why I think it helps is because you don't have that temptation to look at those things anymore, because you've blocked them. And also, it stops the habit basically of you looking at their stuff, because sometimes you can get into a pattern of it. Perhaps, sometimes you wake up in the morning and one of the first things you do is check on what they're doing, that kind of thing. And basically what you're doing is you're interrupting that pattern by not having it available to you. Now, you could be in a really sticky situation where perhaps you've kind of done this sort of thing before and you have blocked them, but then you've unblocked them because you just had to look. You just had to find out if they've got a new boyfriend or girlfriend, or just to check if they're still single, or to see if they've posted anything that could be related to you. Now, if you're having trouble like that, then I would highly suggest that you have some kind of social media detox, because you could be addicted in some kind of way to that kind of thing. It could be like a dopamine thing that you get when you check their things. So it might be the case that you may need to speak to a therapist about that kind of stuff, especially if you are one of those people that you've blocked them, but then you unblock them to check and see what they're doing, things like that. But if you can block them and not have the temptation to unblock them on things, then I think blocking them is going to be really, really helpful to you in terms of moving on. Especially if you do find yourself going back to their pages frequently to see what they're doing. And the reason why that is because, if you keep on going back to their pages, you keep on looking at their photos, or you keep on checking to see what they've updated, or perhaps you're kind of like analysing and see if they've got a new boyfriend or girlfriend, or you keep on looking at who keeps on liking their stuff to see if or you go and see who their new friends are that they've added, to see if it could be a possible person that they're dating. If you're doing this kind of like detective work on their pages, it does prevent you from moving on, because you're keeping them in your head. And we become what we think about. So if you're constantly thinking about this person and you're constantly, well, I say constantly very loosely, but if you, let's say daily, you are checking their pages and you're thinking about them daily, then it's going to be difficult for you to move on from them because they're just sort of still going on in your head. And if someone's still in your head, then it's going to prevent you from moving on faster. Now, of course, you know, you're not going to just one day get amnesia and completely forget about them. Like, we don't forget about the people that have meant something to us in our life. You know, I still remember, you know, just acquaintances that I had as friends when I was like 5 years old. Like, I still remember, I still have memories of people, right? Even people that I have no emotional attachment to. So obviously you're going to always remember them in some way, like a song may come on the radio and it will remind you of them, or you might go past like a cafe that you used to go to together or something. So I'm not saying that you're going to completely ever forget about them, because you won't, unless you do actually develop amnesia. But, you know, you can at least take the emotional intensity out of the situation. Because when we break up with someone, when we get rejected by someone, when we still aren't over someone, there is still an emotional charge towards them. There's still like this emotional reaction that you get when you think about them, and things like that. Even if it's just a slight emotional feeling that you get. But either way, you know, having them in your head and constantly thinking about them, having these things that trigger you to think about them, like their social media pages, can prevent you from moving on. And if you truly believe that this person isn't coming back and it's never going to work out with them, then there's no reason why you shouldn't block them and get rid of them, because especially if it is going to help your sanity and it is going to help you feel better about yourself, and it is going to help you move on, because, you know, you need to... I always think there's really no point having people in your life that you're probably never going to speak to again. So there's no point having people on social media that you're probably not going to speak to again, or have a proper friendship with again, or have a connection with again. You know, even though I do have a few people on social media like that, I kind of like to have them on social media because I like to see what they're up to in their lives, because you know, a lot of it is we were once really good friends at school, and I like to see them do well. You know, that's a good place to come from. You know, so even though I don't really talk to them, I still like to see them do well. But if it's someone who, you know, you just have on there because you like to, like an ex or something that you like to keep tabs on, and you still feel a connection to your ex, then that's an unhealthy kind of social media attachment habit. So I think the best thing for you to do, if you're one of these people that isn't moved on from their ex, and or someone that's rejected you, and you still have them on social media, and you know deep down in your heart it's never going to work out with them, then I recommend blocking them. Because if nothing's going to work out with them, and you always have this sort of like romantic connection to them, but it's not going to work out, then there's no point you having them on social media, in my personal opinion. So I would block them. Or if you do have the self-restraint, just unfriend them or unfollow them, if you feel like you can stay away from their pages. But if you feel like you can't, then I suggest that you block them, and maybe that will help. But if you feel like even if you block them, you might feel tempted to one day unblock them to see what they're doing, then I recommend that you go and probably speak to some kind of therapist about this kind of thing, to talk about your attachment issues, or to have some kind of social media detox. Or, you know, one of the best ways I think to help get you over someone is to throw yourself into a new project. So you can kind of create new habits instead of, you know, spending a lot of time on your phone or your computer. Because basically, if you have enough time to, you know, stalk someone's social media page, or to just check up on someone's social media page, and you keep on doing it, then you probably have a little bit too much time on your hands. So I recommend that you, you know, find some hobbies, find some things that you can really dive into, that you can really get stuck into, that you really enjoy, that empower you, that make you feel good about yourself, that make you feel empowered, basically. Something that you're passionate about, that you can work on, that fills you with inspiration. Yeah, and I think that would probably really help as well. And you may want to do that as well as blocking this person anyway, because, you know, finding something that you find truly meaningful to you, that brings you a lot of inspiration, that makes you feel really good and, you know, on fire, basically, is always really good. And that should be what you're really focusing on anyway while you're single. Although it's good to have like part of your life where you are dating, it's good to separate that and don't let that become your whole life. You should have other parts of your life that are important to you. And I think having a good hobby or a side hustle, or some kind of project that you're doing, or it could be your career, having that as like a really big focus as well. So your love life isn't your whole life. Because if your love life is your whole life, when things aren't going well, then obviously your whole life will collapse if your whole life is your love life. So it's good to have other areas of your life that are important to you. So it could be friends, hanging out with family, your work, it could be side projects, it could be hobbies, health and fitness, those kinds of things, and your love life. It should just be a part of your life. It shouldn't be your whole life. And sometimes when your love life is your whole life, it's very difficult to get over your relationships when they crumble or they don't work out the way that you want it to. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with me personally and you'd like coaching with me, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com. Thank you so much, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye, guys.